is.
We've made a lot of shows, and we've made a lot of shows that other people haven't seen because we had a bunch of practice
Yeah.
runs. So it's probably realistically more like episode 26,
30.
70, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
even 30. We made a
Yeah.
bunch, but we're happy to have you guys with us for these shows. We've been putting them on both of our Patreons. So if you join our Patreon, you get the full archive of all
Yeah.
the old shows.
All the past
No extra charge because we like you. Um, and we are sponsored by, I don't like the word sponsored because that makes it sound like we get money or something. We're like hosted by wonderful people who support us in different ways.
Yeah.
And the main one is Curio. It's an art supply and gallery space here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I will put a link in the description for their website, and you should, even if you're not in the area, reach out to them. They do special orders
Yeah.
and tell them we sent you. They're really wonderful. It's run by a couple that are both artists. Sorry if you hear yelling in the background. We are in a city, a downtown area, so you'll hear noise from time to time. But they're wonderful folks and they're artists, and it's nice to buy art supplies from artists because they know what they're selling you.
Yeah.
And also by the folks at Blackwing, which give us pencils and cool stuff. They're wonderful. They make incredible pencils, and they have, sort of a regular lineup of pencils, but then they do special editions, and they're always good. So check them out. I will put a link in the description again. And Mairin-Taj, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good. Mairin-Taj is a professional artist and art model, and I think kind of a genius because she's always surprising me with. Like, I will come to these shows with a theme, and they almost never go the way I would predict, which is to me awesome because I feel like I'm learning stuff throughout the whole process.
Oh,
So
gosh.
thank you for that.
That's funny.
No pressure. And I'm Mike Hawthorne, which whatever, who cares? And I draw while Mairin-Taj poses, and we just talk about art and life and yeah.
Practice and what's going well, what's not.
Yeah, we're sort of aiming this at people who are at the beginning of sort of an art practice, wanting to learn how to draw, wanting to learn how to build an art practice from scratch. And I want to go beyond just use these pencils, use this paper.
Yeah.
Because that's not the stuff that gets you through the ups and downs of actually wanting to draw on a regular basis. So we're aiming this at people who are maybe not at the very, very beginning of their art practice, but they're pretty early on. You're way well past the stage of buying supplies and wanting to start. And now maybe you're farther in and you just need some inspiration or just real gentle guidance for what to do next. So I thought for today's theme, so I'm nursing some injuries. It sounds odd to be a working artist and talking about injuries, but
Well, you make the sports analogies all the time.
I do.
And I think that's very apt because we are like a weird hybrid kind of athlete.
I don't think anybody agrees with us or me whenever I'm in lectures and I compare those two things, but there's a lot of similarities.
There are. There really
And
are.
including being a psycho and just doing it too much and hurting yourself, which
Yes.
I am notorious for.
Yes.
I've blown out my eyes. I've like to where I have huge blood clots, and I've messed up my. Right now, I'm nursing an injury. So there's this muscle here called the brachioradialis, and if you're doing this a lot and drawing, you can mess it up. So I'm nursing this injury, and it's just I have long-term stuff from having gone a little too hard for too long, and so I always advise people like please don't be like me. But I figured we'd talk because you are a regular practitioner of yoga and you have been for years.
Yes.
You've also nursed some injuries from not just your time as a ballerina,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
for
that's
drawing.
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you have multiple art-related injuries also.
I do.
Although you look like a kid, we're all kind of we're collecting injuries at this point.
Really are. Yeah, they're building up.
Yeah. So I figured we'd talk about that. Like, what do you do if you've been doing this for a little bit and stuff starts to hurt?
Yes.
And I thought at first this too
Which
soon to
will
talk.
happen.
Yes, I thought this is probably too soon to talk about, but I work with young people at the college, and they're always. I mean, I have had to extend deadlines for students because they literally can't hold a stylus or a pencil because they have horrible carpal tunnel or their neck is messed up from leaning over, drawing too much. So it's never too soon to start thinking about how your body's affected and your mind by this practice, because it will catch up.
Agreed, and I think you want to start with some 2-minute gestures.
Which is
how is that for your arm?
No, it's great.
Okay.
I'll muscle through. I promise.
Which
is don't do that.
Don't muscle through.
Don't muscle
Watch
through.
it muscle through. Maybe just light feathery warm ups.
Yeah, I don't give. I will give good advice. I won't practice. Like I'll do this with you.
What is that saying? Do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do.
Yeah.
I know. And I'm gonna go home and I have to also do more work, and I'll just work on an injury, which is not wise.
Well, is shorter posing better?
It's all the same. It's all good. Yeah.
All right. So we'll start with 2, and then we'll get into it.
Okay.
So prompt me again. What was that?
So how do we stay healthy once things start to hurt?
Oh,
or maybe that's even too far along. What do we do to like avoid hurting in the first place? Maybe that's a good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was thinking, because you were talking about students already complaining of injuries and having a hard time figuring out how to continue with their pains.
Yes.
And I think that it is never too early to acknowledge and maybe educate yourself in a smart way with reputable sources about how your body is going to be impacted by a drawing discipline.
Yes.
By an artist discipline, because it's true. I mean, your physical experience is not off the table here.
It's not. Yeah, I think people tend to think of drawing as something you do in your head. It's not physical. Why would it hurt you? You know, you're sitting and drawing.
Or like the idea of being a couch potato and just lounging while you sit.
Yes.
And like, oh, you couldn't possibly get injured through doing that. Well, even actual couch potatoes get seriously ill because of that habit.
Correct.
So.
And probably your favorite artist is not sitting on the sofa very often.
Yes.
You know, they're probably up and active. In fine art, the emphasis is on standing and drawing, or at least it was when I was in art school.
As it was with me.
Yeah, so my practice is still, to this day, I've continued that. I've been drawing standing, so that can cause issues for knees and back and everything else. So how do we avoid some of that stuff? You said something during the last show that actually was unexpected for me, but it carries over to this. You said how you eat dark chocolate. To sort of get into a mental space that you feel happy and want to draw. But that's a healthy, you don't think of chocolate as healthy, but it is, it allows for, it has some anti-inflammatory properties.
Antioxidants, it's really good for iron and other things, yeah.
Correct. So if you're going to snack smart, right? Like.
Yes. We're not talking about Cadbury eggs or whatever. None of that shit, please. We're talking about the real thing.
Yeah, what even is in those things?
Ugh. Just probably corn syrup.
God, yeah.
Yeah. No. Real, and so, I love to cook. So if we're talking about nutrition and like mindful ingestion, I have a whole entire like routine around fueling my body physically with the right stuff. And I think that is very important, and you can find your own particular version of that, but keeping out sugars and giving yourself proper protein and fiber is really important.
Yeah, so inflammation is going to be your biggest enemy.
Yes,
And the easiest way to get your body inflamed is to increase your intake of sugar.
Yes.
And I see a lot of students just banging sugar like there's no tomorrow. They're just eating candy bars to get themselves through, a tough deadline. Candy bars and like, what's that energy drink they all drink now? There's Monster, and the Red Bull. That's the other one.
Yeah.
And that's probably a horrible idea, right? You're better off just with coffee, which doesn't have all the other funky stuff in it. There is some, not to get nerdy, but There is a health issue attached to high intakes of certain B vitamins,
Yeah.
where the end of your nerves start to sort of give out, and you can start getting like a weird nerve pain or weakness in your muscles. And a lot of those energy drinks just pack in caffeine and vitamin B's just to give you boosts of energy, which is okay in the short term, but it'll shorten your career in the long term. So snack better. Dark chocolate and coffee is probably way better than Snickers and a Red Bull.
Yeah. Stable sources of fuel in whatever form is really going to
Correct.
help you out. Not just if you're a career artist, but if you just want to have the use of your body in an easeful way
Yes.
for the longest amount of time.
Correct.
Which I think we all do.
Yes.
Really.
I also this is gonna sound like annoying, boring doctor advice, but like tons and tons of water. Like I am
Yes.
drinking so much water while I'm working.
Yes.
And I will often so early on, I would change. And sorry if I'm talking only dietary stuff. I promise we'll get to the more philosophical, mental stuff. That's also very important. But early on, I was just so focused on tweaking the machine to get the most out of it, and I was tweaking my diet so that I could focus for long periods of time. And it works, right? There's plenty of supplements and coffees and everything else that you can take to like allow yourself to work longer, which is maybe not a great idea because your body.
You're overstimulating.
Yeah, and your body just this. I don't remember who wrote this, but I read a quote recently on Substack where this person's it's Gabor Mate, the doctor.
Mate, yeah.
He says if you don't know how to say no, your body will for you.
Yes, 100%.
And that's what started to happen to me.
Yeah.
Like I was just hyper productive. I'm working on films and comic books and video games and very, very high achiever. And things are just breaking, you know, like, and I'm active. I mean, I walk like 3 to 5 miles a day with the dogs, and I'm working standing, but I just was pushing it too much, which is super unhealthy. So be careful with what, there's this kind of grind set nonsense that you'll hear about, and, do this to work an extra 4 hours a day, or do this to hustle more. And I realized that I wasn't in that mental space. I would make fun of those things while then turning around and like trying to tweak everything to be as productive as possible.
Right.
So
if you do that too much, I mean, once in a great while maybe, but if you do that too much, you're basically investing in a big crash at some point.
correct.
Absolutely.
Investing in a big. Let me write that down. Investing. That's great because it investing in a big
down the line
crash.
because like he said, I mean, it's just science. Your body is going to say that's enough.
Yes.
And if you don't want that to happen to you,
Yes.
which is always going to be at a intellectually inconvenient time.
Yes. I was in the middle of deadlines when the first time I blew out my eyes. Where I don't mean to. Sorry, continue. I don't mean to cut you off, but the first time I didn't realize what was happening, and luckily it wasn't. The subsequent times I've blown out my eyes, it's been gory, like huge, bloody eyeball, where everybody looks at you and cringes. But the first time, they just wouldn't focus.
Yeah.
And I had been I don't remember even what project it was. That's the part that's frustrating, is like you do this stuff and you're like, what did I win?
Yeah, right, exactly.
But I was in the middle of this deadline and I just couldn't focus, and I couldn't figure out why my eyes weren't focusing.
Yeah.
So I went to my wife, I'm like, I don't know what's up, but like I can't. And she looked at me, and I have blue eyes, but apparently they looked black. Like
wow.
They compare it to the scene in Finding Nemo where the shark smells blood and his eyes go completely black.
Yeah.
So we went to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor says, yeah, it's a muscle, you idiot.
Yeah.
And you overworked it, and your eye just blooped. Like it couldn't dilate anymore. It's a little like when they give you those eye drops for glaucoma tests, and they just expand them all the way out.
Right.
My eyes just did that.
Yeah.
And I forget, and it was like, don't work for a week. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Right.
And the next day I was working because I had to.
Yeah, right.
But it was a scary experience when your body just decides, yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. Muscle through this one.
Yeah, good luck, dumbass. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we kind of like machismo our way in this culture.
Yes,
Or that's
yes.
what has been taught to us, men,
It
women,
is.
whomever. But
I'm glad you point out men and women because being in art school, I mean, man, the women went real hard, especially like you'd see these. I remember because I worked at the school store and I would come across everyone basically.
yeah.
And the women sculptors were like the most macho people on campus. Right, because they were just doing all this physical stuff, and you couldn't tell them shit about shit. They were just art animals, right? And you just know that they're probably paying the price now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, everybody has been taught in this culture to do that, and
Yes.
it's it's been taught, so it's kind of seen as like an admirable thing, but it's really just you're being trained and programmed to be disrespectful and abusive to your body.
Oh, that's great.
You know. And,
That's great.
And because we look at softness, gentleness, slowing down, rest as weak, and that's completely not true at all. But if you're looking at it that way, then you're going to be investing in harming yourself.
Yeah, I mean, even just the term "go hard," right? Like that's seen as a positive thing.
Go hard.
Yeah,
man.
like where when something is hard, it's usually not pleasurable. When something is difficult, it's not fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're using that term as if it should be difficult, or else what's the point?
Mm.
And something you said in the last episode, where you've had artistic breakthroughs by just like doing nothing and listening to childhood music.
I think most of them really honestly happen that way. I mean, even people like Einstein have said, it's 4 seconds.
Okay.
Have said, like I got my breakthrough doing the dishes or doing,
Yes.
I think this is kind of part of my personal artist philosophy and like being an artist in the world, regardless of my output or my successes. I think we as artists have to represent that to the world.
Right.
We have to be the reminders of like why gentleness, self-care, tuning inwards is so important.
Oh God, yeah.
For everything, but
yeah, we're supposed to be a guidepost for the culture to show them what it means to be human, and then we do these inhuman things, like
yeah, it's not helpful to anybody.
yeah, like I saw this poem recently about how great it is that you can't sell a poem.
Oh wow.
And I remember thinking like, oh man, like because I remember talking to being in publishing and talking to publishers and going like, oh, like poets, those books don't sell for shit. What's the point of that? And buying into it, right? Like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, why would I learn to be a poet? But that's what everybody quotes. That's what people remember in a pinch to get them through a tough spot, or
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what do we do at funerals? We quote poems. Like,
exactly.
No one's reading a like your Honda owner manual during a hard time.
Oh, I mean, there's this wonderful interview with Ethan Hawke. Is that his name? The actor?
Okay, yeah.
And he's talking about that. He's saying, like, art isn't, I mean, yeah, in sort of a, kind of smaller sense, art is very much a luxury. But in a bigger sense, like, the creative spirit of humanity is vital. Like
Yes.
When someone dies, or when there's a loss, or when you're grieving, or like that's life, loss, grief, joy, celebration, and all of those moments are life. And what are we doing in those moments where, reading a poem to not feel alone in our grief, or we're reading a poem and we're going, oh, this is love, this is what it is, this is what it is like to feel alive. And art basically sort of chronicles to us our own experience.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. And for your own health, maybe don't fall into the whole I have to I have to go harder. I have to try. I have to commodify everything I'm doing. I have to, you know, find a way to get a couple more followers, or how do I get popular so then I can make the art. You know, there's a lot of that with students. How do I grow my Instagram so that I can get gigs and that kind of thing? And I'm like, I understand why you're questioning this, but it's so far removed from what we're supposed to be teaching you.
Yeah, it's so not the point.
Yeah.
Forcing anything is never beautiful.
No. Oh God, that. Right
Did I
I'm
do
writing
another
that.
one?
I'm doing it. I'm writing it down. Anything. Sorry, I'm gonna make a bunch of stickers for the show of just your quotes. Is never. It really. You're right. It never. I can't. What can you think of anything that you forced that felt like that was great.
Right, and by beautiful, I'm kind of inflecting with a capital B, like, I mean, true beauty, which is really what, it doesn't matter what kind of artist you are, like, we're all pursuing, like, this great sense that we want to put back into the world,
Right.
And, like, bring people's attention to.
That's,
and
well said.
We cannot succeed in that seemingly, impossible mission if we are unhealthy.
Yes.
However unhealthy we're talking.
Yeah, we started out talking about physical health, and there's a lot of little things that I probably should have mentioned. I mean, like if you're, one of the practices is to draw from the shoulder, so like this kind of a movement versus this, because this leads to carpal tunnel and pain. There's the physical, like holding up your arm at this angle, that can be tougher, and I'm leaving some of that off because we've gotten into sort of the mental health stuff, which is important. So I don't want to like say one is better than the other, or one is less important than the other, rather. But I think we keep coming back to the mind because so much of the work still is, so much of the unhealthy things we do physically comes from being in a bad mental state.
Yes,
maybe that's the way to put it.
It all comes from your mindset or your perspective,
right,
or your awareness on a thing, or lack thereof. And speaking to sort of awareness and good practices, when I was starting out as an art student, this was slightly addressed and discussed in some of my drawing classes, like drawing 1 and 2, and I don't see it ever really talked about anymore because I work with you at PK.
Yeah.
And except for the few times where you've mentioned it because kids are complaining about their pain or whatever.
Yeah.
You talk about it and remind them of the fact that they're physical beings.
Yes.
But when we draw, even having like a physical warm up as if you were an athlete.
Yes.
You're coming to your standing position at the easel, like roll your shoulders maybe.
Yeah.
Flex your arms, rotate your wrists counterwise, clockwise, There's all these things that you can do, but especially like before and after, have a post art workout, stretching session, or
I would love to, I mean, we've joked around about you having like a guided yoga sort of mini class for these kids, because they're genuinely, like, some of them are genuinely suffering.
Yes, for sure.
And I think you're right. It would be great to get them to think of it as like an exercise kind of. And we made the joke about the sports analogies that I make, but that's one of the things you learn in sports is you don't just like jump onto the field and play.
No.
Like you're doing all kinds of warm ups long before you've caught a ball, kicked a ball, whatever the game entails, and none of that is brought over into art.
No, and it's sad because art is a very physical experience. It's just we're not. It doesn't look physical because we're not sitting there lifting weights or whatever.
Yes.
We're not doing a breaststroke in the pool or whatever.
Yes. And you're aware. I mean, because you're up there standing on one leg for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you're uniquely aware of this part of the art practice, and they're just going, well, I'll just start drawing. So I wish you're right. I wish we could get them to and if I tried to force them to do warm-ups or something first, it would just it would elicit so many groans. I remember once trying to get them to consider just drawing outside, and there was a group of these students that was like, "Oh, the sun? No!"
I
Like,
can't believe that.
I know, isn't that? It's shocking, but yeah, I think art has sort of become the thing that like kids that don't want to be physical do,
Yeah.
which is surprising to me. But you know, it's also probably a cultural thing.
I think so. I mean, we've talked about some of the shifts in the younger generations, but
Yeah. Well, and there's also like the jocks versus the artists, and the jocks are the ones that do stretches and warm ups.
right.
Right.
It's almost like the art students want to be anything but that,
Yeah.
or at
Yeah.
the opposite end of the spectrum.
So one of the other things I would, just as a practical bit of advice, I would say, like if you're drawing and something hurts, um, it's easy to just go, okay, that hurts. Let me pop an Advil or something.
Mm-hmm.
One of This is an anatomical thing, but if something hurts because you've been doing this a lot, then you have to stretch the opposite direction.
Yes.
Because a muscle that's moving is in flexion, like it's flexing, and you need to stretch it to have it do the opposite. So I've been having this ongoing pain here, and this muscle twists over, and I'm trying not to get too technical, but to stretch it, I have to
extend.
You have to both extend, and I have to rotate my hand outward,
right,
to pull that muscle into that actual stretch position. It can be tricky, but like just having that warm up session that you said, but also post drawing,
yep,
stretching is a
like
huge
wind
help.
down. Yeah, it's very important. I do that with my practice. I have
Do you want to call it with that
Sure.
pose? Yeah.
I mean, I walk
Yeah.
a lot. I do walking breaks, just because, especially if you're doing anything seated, it's really good to
Oh,
have
God,
a
yeah.
movement practice where you're extending and activating the front part of your body.
Correct. Actually, that's a great point.
Like taking long, thorough movement, strides, extending your hip flexors and
Right.
getting in.
Especially if you're sitting, right? So
Yeah.
if you're sitting, your hip flexors are all these muscles. Think of them as the muscles along the top of your thighs at your pelvis.
Yeah.
And they're all flexing as you're sitting. So you need to get them to do the opposite. Basically, like every time you take a break, and if you're gonna try to undo the damage you did from drawing,
Yeah.
you need to make everything that's been flexing now be stretched
Yeah.
in some capacity. I'm not an expert. I don't want you to do what your doctor tells you to do, but stretching before and after is a great idea.
Yeah.
One of the other things you mentioned before the show, though, was what you allow in your head, and then making the things that, this maybe is a whole different show, but making the things that you're not seeing in the world and not keeping you in a good headspace, right? The kind of art that you don't see people making. And this is maybe a weird way to come about the whole health thing, but it got me thinking when you mentioned it, how there's a lot of, like, for instance, there's a lot of women artists that have been so unhappy with the representation of themselves in art and themselves as artists,
Yeah.
that I bet there's a lot of artists that just quit because they're like, I can't take that.
Yeah.
And so how many artists have we lost to just like a mental health issue, basically, because we've made the environment so toxic for them?
Yeah. Or
So
just feeling too insurmountably foreign to them, or
Right.
like they don't belong.
So I think your point was that, and I'd rather hear it from you, but I want to sum it up, was that you sometimes have to make the art that you're not seeing
Yeah.
to feel better about your practice of art.
For sure. I think
But I'm sorry, you posing?
I was gonna get into posing.
Okay.
Fine yet?
Yep, whatever was comfortable for you.
I think there's something to. We were talking last episode and in some other episodes we've discussed, like, finding art food in the world,
Right.
Beyond yourself, getting inspired. Inspiring is like a literal inhalation,
Right.
like a feeding of, and I think there's a lot to also. There's the flip side of that, which is nothing's getting you going, or what's in the external world doesn't inspire, doesn't
Right,
cause
right.
you to inhale with awe, as it were.
That's a great way to put it.
And I think that if you notice that a lot, some of the antidote might be I need to, it's the onus is on you to get what you want to see in the world into the world.
Like if the atmosphere is not healthy, then you need to create your own atmosphere to make it feel healthy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is to be a leader, and it doesn't mean you have to be like drawing ranks and in the front of a crowd.
Right.
Often leaders actually are quietly doing something that the crowd isn't ready to follow yet.
Correct. Yes.
You know, and so artists can fall into that group of like, the world doesn't really want to follow or perceive or even acknowledge me right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe never even in my lifetime, but like there's something that needs to be in the world that I see, that I have the sensitivity to, and therefore that is a part of my mission to put it in. And it's you might not be here to get fame for that.
Yeah,
you know?
But to not put it out makes you feel unhealthy.
Yeah, you
it's
feel
kind of a
ill,
broad term,
you're
but
not achieving what you need to. You know, that has a lot of negative health effects, I think.
I agree.
To your sense of personal accomplishment or mission or purpose in the world. And I mean, we know that feeling like you don't have purpose in life, regardless of how popular or public that purpose is debilitating. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I remember very early in my career, I couldn't get any gigs, and I just decided, you know what, I quit. I can't do this. I can't, like, this is the, because it's hard enough to pursue art, but not being able to, like, get any gigs. For me, it was really about getting gigs at the time. I just thought, well, that means quitting. And then I promptly got the flu, and I never get sick. I just got like flu-like symptoms, and it was terrible. And then I realized I might have even been my wife that said, you know, you got sick the second you decided you weren't going to do this anymore. And then deciding that, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll keep going. Right. Made me, you know, miraculously feel better. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's something to what you're saying, that you know, your health doesn't just come from doing quote unquote healthy things like eating and healthy foods, but also from just healthy practices and making things appear in the world that you're not seeing that you miss, you know? Oh yes.
What is that Portuguese term? I don't know how to pronounce it. Saudade or saudade or something. It's SADUA.
I'm not sure.
Saudade. SADUADE.
Okay. Oh, I have a Brazilian friend. I'll have to ask her.
Or SADAUDE, something like that. But it basically means, we don't have a word for it in English. It refers to the feeling of deeply, deeply craving or yearning for something that you haven't had.
Yes, that's great.
It's like,
yes,
you need this thing, but you don't know what it is, or you've never personally experienced it. But you know that you need it. And
I think artists understand that inherently.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to explain that. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of mental energy to go, like, do you know what I mean? Because they immediately probably feel like, yes. Because that's why I want to make stuff, right? Yeah. There's a thing that I haven't seen yet that I really need to see. Yes. Or hear or whatever. I'm not, we're talking drawing, so you know, but any kind of art.
Yeah, any creative process you're pursuing through that medium or that technique or discipline, that which you need to achieve or realize in the world. Right. So that's great. That's a big component of the mental health part of it, I think.
That's really great.
I'm saying everything I've just said, like, mostly to myself, really, because I certainly struggle with that. You know, maybe if you're not finding like a niche that neatly fits into the way the industry or the world is currently accepting and validating artists, it can feel like, oh, I don't have a place here. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to do something so different and very differently about it. Like, the way of doing it needs to be different.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've talked in the past about, you know, Van Gogh is considered a failure to this day. People, if you look at his Wikipedia page, depending on who's editing the damn thing. So Yeah, it's sort of not up to us to decide what posterity thinks.
Right.
It always made me laugh. I remember being in art school, and dudes. It was always dudes trying to come up with a name for their art movement, and I'm like, dude, we're not supposed to name these things. That's what the art historians are for.
Yeah.
But they were just, they wanted to belong to something. I get it. You never joined the gang, so now you want an art movement. I shouldn't make fun of, but who cares? Like, if at the end of your life you felt like you gave everything you wanted to do a shot, that's hopefully enough. I mean, I would love for everybody to be a successful artist that wants to pursue it, but what does that even mean? And is it always money? And there's so much working against us in any culture, but specifically ours in the U.S. with what art is and whether it's worth anything, that that'll just drive you nuts.
It will. It really will. Yeah, I think we've talked about this in a previous episode, but if art is a kind of like humanitarian service, then
yes.
You shouldn't be looking for. I don't think it does any service to the service to be looking for applaud or fame or notoriety or title out of it.
It does no service to the service.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we need it.
Yeah.
As much as people don't want to admit it. We saw that during COVID where, everybody wanted to learn to draw. Everybody needed art. Everybody needed new music and TV shows to watch. And, it was every bit as important to some people as just staying physically healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know people who went back and read old classics and really just reading, I don't know, the Odyssey helps them through, or reconnecting with Tennyson or whatever. This is what art does.
Amen.
This is tangential to the point, but people who are like, oh, I don't give a shit about art. What's the point?
Yeah.
So I don't care about art. It's like you're consuming it right now. Look at you.
Right. It makes me nuts when I hear that. I had a conversation with a guy that said some version of that, and I'm like, well, then get out of that chair.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
someone designed that thing, you stupid ass.
Someone hung out in a studio and made that.
Yes.
Poured their existence into that chair.
So it's all around everybody, and it's not for nothing that these guys are spending billions to try to get AI to be able to write a poem and draw, right? Because it's the old cliche was, well, can a robot make a symphony? And that was their way of saying, can they be really more human than a human? And it's just funny to me that when we're talking about humanity and how we feel about ourselves, no one ever said, can a robot do my taxes, right? There's always something art-based that was the actual pinnacle of what it is we do when we're here. Yes, right. Not that, doing taxes well isn't important. I wish I could do math. I would love to be able to count, but I can't. But I can draw well, moderately well. So I think you're right. I guess we're talking about staying healthy, and this is every bit as important as the stretching and not hunching over a desk. Don't draw flat if you can avoid it. Draw vertically. You'll save your back a lot of pain in your neck. You see kids hunched over. I think they're used to being physically hunched over because of having grown up with phones. So they're doing that during their art practice, which is not ideal. They're also drawing and using reference from their phone. Yeah. And I mean, it can take a little bit extra effort or resources to set up a situation where you don't have to be compromising your posture, but I think it's worth it. Yeah. Yeah, getting them to draw vertically is really a fight. I mean, it really is. I have to force them sometimes to use an easel. Well, there's this resistance, and I've seen it with students too, and other people. There's this, but standing up, it hurts, it aches, or I don't want to. It's it's going to be uncomfortable initially for you because your body is not in the habit of, or the stamina to maintain. Stamina is the Great way to put
Yeah.
it. Yes.
You don't have the physical stamina to stand and do a thing, which is, I mean, from a, physiological point of view, concerning.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, if,
I mean,
if your core is not that strong, and
Yeah.
your feet don't have the musculature to handle standing for long enough, then
Oh
I
God,
think,
yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
you need to do something about it.
I'm friends with this guy who is our kids went to school together,
Okay.
and he's a writer that has been pushing the whole barefoot running movement.
Yes.
So if you know that world, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And he really, this isn't a thing he does for money. Like, I've gone out to lunch with the dude where he's wearing slippers, that he carries slippers that he can throw on real fast just because you have to in a restaurant, takes them right off barefoot. And it's just, that guy he's older than me by a good bit. I don't mean to make him sound old, but as healthy as a horse. Quite literally rehabilitated a donkey.
Oh.
That was like, that's one of his books is about this, by just having it run with him.
Yeah.
And the guy goes places all the time, all over the world, and he's running, and he preaches this whole like foot strength kind of movement that comes out of just being barefoot. Now, some of that, like, I live in a city, it's not a thing that doesn't make sense, and I'm working on my feet standing a lot, so I go through a lot of sneakers.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is true. Like, sometimes it feels so bad because you're just so not used to doing it, right? So baby steps, right? Like, just start. I'm sitting right now drawing vertically, which is not how I would normally be working, but we do it for the show.
Yeah.
But this is a good first step because it forces your spine to be vertical.
Upright, yeah.
Right. You have to teach your body to work in that way, or else you're going to short. Like, honest to God, drawing on a flat surface is probably the number one worst thing an artist can do. It messes up your neck, your shoulders, your wrists, your arm, because you can't draw from the shoulder anymore. It is just...
Your spine.
Yeah, it's a disaster. So if you're working flat, it's easier. I'm not saying everybody rush out, buy an easel. You can... I knew a guy that literally got an old door, drilled 2 holes, put pegs in them, and just put his canvases on an old door. Yeah. So you can find different ways to work vertically. Yeah. Even if it means taping. I have taped paper to glass doors. Okay. Like, I've been on vacation, don't have a easel or anything to work vertically, so just glass surface is smooth enough to work on. Anything to get into that practice slowly. Yeah, it's important. Not to be bouncing back and forth between mental health and physical health, but I just think they're so clearly tied together when we're working as artists. Yeah, for sure. We probably have enough time for one more. You good for that? Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I want to do some more like cool inversions and things for some of the poses for this, so people see some. I imagine a lot of my poses are kind of repeating, but I'm like, but I need to be able to talk too.
That's the thing, yeah. Like, no, yeah. It's because you can hear it even when you're just facing away sometimes. Yeah, right. So I appreciate it, but no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, even just chronic poor posture.
Oh, it's so bad.
Especially as a younger person, where your body is literally still growing and evolving, and fighting gravity all the time, and the natural curves in your spine are going to be compromised. Yes. So then if you're trying to recalibrate and train out of nowhere, after years or whatever of not doing this, suddenly try to have upright, sort of homeostasis posture. Yes. And have, equilibrium in all of the curves of your spine, that's going to feel really, really wrong to you.
Yeah, and I want to be careful because I don't want to say, I don't want people to hear this and say, oh, it means it hurts, I should do it.
Yeah, no,
that's not what we're saying.
Through pain, right? But just understand that having better posture or whatever after not is going to feel weird.
Right. It's gonna take some getting used to. You have to build up those muscles. Yeah. So yeah, it's not necessarily pain. Maybe the right word is discomfort.
Discomfort. Yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing in yoga or yin yoga. Another thing I practice, and it's always the same thing. Yeah. One of my teachers, Bernie Clark, a Canadian practitioner, says, people seem to not know what pain is, you know, like
Yeah, yeah.
pain, and they muscle through it. But if you're feeling anything electrical in nature, tingling, sparking, sort of sharp, burning, that's something you want to back off from.
Yes.
You can easily kind of damage nerves holding a pose that is, you know, really sparking at you.
Yes.
But if you're feeling some sort of like subtle, achy compression quality, dull sort of discomfort, that's not necessarily a bad thing, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare it to say you're not used to being on your feet, and now you have to stand in a line or something.
Yeah, right. And you have like sore feet.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking. That kind of discomfort. No one's saying, you know, if you're in a lot of pain, just keep sitting there and drawing or standing there and drawing.
No.
But I think you're right in that we need to train those muscles again. And I think if you think of them in terms of exercise, maybe that means doing reps, right? Like
Yes.
5-minute drawings, then I'm going to go and wash some dishes, and then I'll come back and do another 5-minute drawing.
Right.
I do a lot of that. I'm like, I do the laundry in the house, so you know I'll be working, force myself to take a break and go walk, and I can't walk, you know, like leave the house every single time. So I'll go down to the basement, throw a load of laundry in. That's got me up and down because we live in a city house. That's 2 flights of stairs.
Up and down, yeah.
Right, I'm doing something a little more physical, and then I get back to drawing.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I was going to mention the reps. I like that because, you know, again, if you're not really accustomed to it, but you want to try to be a little more mindful with your practice in a physical way, then that's a great thing. Like, okay, I'm going to keep, you know, cozy drawing in the couch, but I'm going to warm up by sitting upright.
Right.
My warm-ups are going to be upright.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
That could be a goal.
And it's okay. I mean, like what we're doing now are timed poses.
Yeah.
You know, now I'll have been between this episode and the previous one, we were at 46 minutes. In the previous one, you know, it's an hour and 15 minutes of just drawing straight.
Yeah.
That may seem normal when you're seeing a guy do it, but it's probably not for you.
Right.
Like, and with your spine rigid, drawing for an hour and a half is probably not your best bet right out the gate.
Yeah.
You build up to that. Especially, I mean, I get, especially from students, how long can I draw? Like, how do I get more stuff done? Like, and I'm always leery of giving them solid advice because I'm like, sitting in one spot for 2 hours straight and drawing is maybe not ideal.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like it is.
Yeah.
You know, I think you may end up getting up and then you feel like shit and you can't draw the rest of the day. So you have to be careful and you have to be mindful. And I think your advice of treating it like, you know, an exercise that you build up the strength to is very smart.
And just, you know, take breaks and do something totally like just for like 60 seconds, get up from your chair or whatever and like do a back bend over a ball or like one of those like, what are those, like workout ball things?
Yeah. I tend to I lay on my back on the either floor or something hard and just do a series of little stretches, just like often it's just a twisting. Like I'll lay on my back, bend my knees and just twist my knees back and forth.
That's great. That's a great lumbar release.
Yeah.
Really good for your low spine and your hips.
So hopefully the show wasn't all over the place. The whole point though that I hope we all take away from this is that like not pursuing an art practice is as unhealthy as pursuing it badly physically, right? So
yes, or mentally.
Yeah. So
drink lots of water, get energy in a healthy, sustainable way, like an even keel green tea as opposed to spiking energy. Avoid a lot of sugar. You know, eat your veggies, everybody. Right. You know,
and don't fall for this artist's like mythology of they're at it for 10 hours straight or 24 hours straight and they're dripping sweat and passing out and then like that. No one's doing that. And if they are, they're dumb.
Yeah. Don't listen to people who encourage nursing their insomnia with
Oh God, that's a great point.
Sleep.
Oh man.
Anything you can do to sleep.
Yeah, the insomnia thing is so like part and parcel with a lot of artist attitudes.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah.
I can't sleep, so I draw all night. It's like, you need to sleep.
Yeah.
Your body needs you to sleep.
Yeah. And I've done that. I used to jokingly post insomnia art. Because I did have insomnia, but I didn't like do it. I didn't want, like, I had put so much effort into hacking my sleep.
Yeah.
So that
yes.
it is, because it's a performance enhancement drug, to be frank, right?
Yes.
Like, just sleeping well
yes.
will make you faster, smarter,
stronger,
and more observant.
Better, yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah, sleep for sure.
Yeah.
And make the art you have to make.
Yes.
So you don't go crazy.
Exactly.
All right. Good show. Thank you so much, Mairin-Taj.
Thank you.
So again, thanks to our friends at Curio for giving us a beautiful space to work in. Please check out their website. I'll put a link in the descriptions. Thanks to our friends at Blackwing who make really cool pencils. My favorite bit is this, like, people always think it's a paintbrush when I have it in my ear, because the eraser is a unique shape and it actually pops out.
Yeah.
So that you can replace it. I'm not going to do it now because I'm breaking it, but this will come out. There's a lot of erase in there, so you can adjust it and allow for more erasing or replace them. So Blackwing is awesome. Thank you, Mairin-Taj.
Thank you.
I'll put a link to her Patreon in the show description. If you're not a member of her Patreon, you should be. She's offering all kinds of art videos on Fridays, explanations of her process, art references. So it's a one-stop shop. And if they want to find you on Instagram, that is
studio_Mair, Mair.
Awesome. I'm Mike Hawthorne. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the show. We appreciate you all. And we are working our way to episode 25, where we will be live for patrons. So, join our Patreons. And that's it. Talk to you soon.